Hey, this is The Rest with Joel Kovacs. The rest of my thoughts, the rest of our church, and hopefully with a little bit of love, the rest for your souls. Disclaimer, this is not a sermon. These are my thoughts and interests, and these are your thoughts and interests. The rest is a time for open and safe opinions and dialogue. Hey, thanks for checking this out today. This is episode 8 of The Rest, and continuing into a series on leadership from all different types of people from the community. We've had a great run. We had Roy Hall from Ohio State, and then we had David Holliday, former CEO and president of Cover My Meds last week. And today, along with my opening rant and footnotes, we have special guest Brad Smith, who's here today. Hey, Brad, how you doing?
What's up, Joel? Thanks for having me, man.
Yep. Brad is the men's assistant golf coach at Ohio State. And he has a lot to share about leadership and stuff that he's learned. And also, he is the husband of Carmen Smith, who is our service programming director, who she was on the podcast several weeks ago talking about worship. So Brad is here to talk about leadership, and he's going to join me for the rest of it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Got home late last night from the tournament, but glad to be on here. So
Brad is in season as the coach.
We are. Yep. We were down outside Hilton Head, so got one positive about being in golf is this time of year you get out of the cold for a while.
Yes.
So
you escape.
I'm fortunate. So it doesn't always make my wife the happiest,
right.
But yep. So we were down and leave again on Friday. So it's kind of peak season for us.
But you had a player. You have a sophomore on the team that is excelling, or a couple.
Yeah. We've had 2 different guys win our first 2 events individually this spring, and our guy yesterday, he was 9 under through 15 holes.
Wow.
Shot 65 in the final round and tied the all-time tournament scoring record for Ohio State.
Jeez.
So got some young guys doing some good things. It's exciting.
For the rest of us, 65, never. That's never going to happen. Probably not even on 9 holes for me. Sorry, that's the bad joke. But wow.
Oh, he's pretty good. So we're excited. Got a good squad this year. So looking forward to the rest of the season.
Does he drive it far, or is his short? Where's his heightened skill?
I mean, to be at that level, you got to do it all. But he's a very cool customer, so doesn't get flustered easily. He was 9 under, like I said, through 15, and just looked like he was out playing another round of golf.
Jeez. Well, that's crazy. Well, we're going to have Brad here with us, and then we're going to dive into some thoughts and continued discussion on leadership here a little bit later. But like I said, we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about a little bit of some current events, and we're also going to dive in a little bit more to footnotes and the rest of my message. I'm doing a series on generosity right now, but we'll get started right now with the opening rant. Okay, so Brad, I told you about this. You were at a golf tournament, or you were practicing and getting ready or something. You were gone this weekend.
Yep.
But this weekend was if you didn't catch this, it's one of those weekends where everybody has had so much going on, and there's been football, and then there's been like the Super Bowl, and then whatever, weekends are kind of filled with like everything else. And then finally football goes away and people stop watching TV on Saturday night, like a little bit, you know what I mean? But then basketball is starting to heat up.
Yep.
College basketball. I don't know about you, but like when college basketball starts to heat up, it's like a safe haven for my soul, because I love it, but it gives me that sport craving thing that I miss from football.
Yeah, opening week of March Madness, one of the best weeks of the year.
And then when the Buckeyes are good,
even better.
If they're like flirting in the top 25, which they've been all year, and you start to love that team, it's fun, right? You get to watch them, so you start to watch these teams play, and so this weekend, the big push was the Duke game the North Carolina Duke game, which is kind of an annual thing, a couple of years ago. My family usually sits around and watches that game.
Yep.
Remember, there was a buzzer beater a couple of years ago.
They're always
amazing.
Like.
So, Duke's ranked, North Carolina's not. But the big thing was it's Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K's last game at home, his last home game. And so it's very dramatic. There was all kinds of fanfare and pregame stuff at the game. All of his former players were there, basically.
Yep.
And tons of celebrities. Jerry Seinfeld, the president. What do they call the guy that's in charge of the NBA? The commissioner. The commissioner, which is his name is
Adam Silver.
Adam Silver. He's sitting there. Jerry Seinfeld's there. All kinds of celebrities are there for this game. Kyler Murray was there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to Oklahoma. I don't know, but I mean, because it's Mike Krzyzewski is why why he's there. But so of course Duke's not. They're one of the greatest programs of all time. And you just start to hear what's going on, and they tell the backstory. And I remember reading about Mike Krzyzewski a couple of years ago, just trying to know a little bit more about him. He had time at Army, and then he gets hired in 1980. So just kind of funny. In 1980, he gets hired to be the head coach of Duke.
That's amazing.
So I was born in 1980. So it's just kind of one of those moments where I'm like, his whole 42-year-long career is my life. And he did all that at Duke. So he's like born in 1937. So it's just amazing that he had all that life, and then he started this next season of his life, and now he's closing that chapter. 42 years, 5 national championships, whatever amount of Final Four appearances, gold medals from coaching the Olympic team. The number of players and the number of people that he's impacted, it's just like, it's overwhelming when the production that they do on these things starts to focus on that. You're just like, wow. So this guy, he's one of the best in the world.
He's probably, behind John Wooden, you could make the argument that he's the next most influential college basketball coach of all time.
Yep.
I mean, certainly in the top 5, but maybe even second behind Coach Wooden.
Yeah, and when you think about college basketball coaches, a lot of the best coaches, there tends to be some dirt, I think of Bobby Knight and chucking a chair, and I don't know. I hate to throw people's names, but there's all kinds of speculation around these guys at these top one and done teams. I think Petrino, kind of the stuff that happened with him. Calipari he's had all kinds of trouble, I think, without getting into. I don't want to disparage someone, but it feels like Coach K really, my impression before watching what happened on Saturday night was Coach K, he's pretty above board. This guy seems to have pretty strong character, and he seems to kind of, I don't know. I mean, the assumption is, did you ever see the movie Blue Chips?
I have not.
With Nick Nolte, and he was this coach of this team, and Shaq played for the team, and so did Penny Hardaway, I think. But basically, it shows you that these guys get paid to go to certain schools, and of course now with name and likeness and all this stuff, it's almost like people are admitting that they did this, and it's fine that they did it. Now they're allowed to do versions of it. I was at a steakhouse last week in the middle of the day, and there was a one of the Buckeye players that and I know, one of the top running backs sitting at the back with 4 guys in suits. I'm like, well, here we go.
It's a Pandora's box for another day.
Right, another day. I know we don't need to get into all of it, but I'm just like, okay, basically, and I like to romanticize things anyways, kind of the way I'm like, I believe that Mike Krzyzewski, mainly, really good dude.
Yep.
No one's perfect. I kind of view him like Jim Tressel.
I would agree.
Right? And so you rub shoulders with some of these Division I coaches at Ohio State. I think you've probably had multiple experience. So they're not all the same. They're not. We know this, right?
Yeah,
they're not
for sure.
So, and Division I coaches between you coach with a guy named Jay, who's the head coach of golf.
Yep, Jay Mosley.
And then, you guys are with Oklahoma State and Auburn and all the time. So, of course, it's easy to put people in categories and say all head coaches at Division I level are trashy guys that break the rules and basically want to win at all costs. But that's not the case.
It's not the majority, no.
And that's good to know.
Yeah.
And so you really do believe that Krzyzewski's one of those guys. And then, of course, the game happens, and Duke was up by like 14 in the second half, and North Carolina comes back. And then it just starts to happen in the last 4 minutes where there's like a 10-point spread and North Carolina's up, and you're thinking, no way. Like, at Cameron Stadium with all these fans, all these former players, all of the staff from Duke, all of these colleagues that he's had throughout the years, all of these, that they're going to lose this game. And I was having this experience where I'm like, I kind of hope that like the North Carolina coach, which is like his first year coaching.
Yeah, he's new.
He's a new guy. What was the guy's name? Roy
Williams.
Yeah, so I don't think he was there, which makes sense. but it's like, is he going to pull off the dogs? I don't know. Like, there's a part of me like tip you, but they're not, right? So they
no chance.
Oh my gosh, dude, they're just going for blood, and so they end up losing the game.
Which is shocking.
Shocking.
I would have thought no chance Duke loses that game.
No chance. I mean, they were up. They are better. Their wins are better. I mean, they're just a better team. And I don't know, the emotion, everyone, you can say all kinds of stuff. It got to them too much. You know, Krzyzewski all week long was being asked if they were distracted, and he kept saying, like, all we're talking about is the game, which is, of course, what you should do, and, of course, probably what you should say. But there's just no way that with the type of energy and fanfare and all the pregame ceremonious things that were happening, there's no way that those kids weren't at least somewhat distracted. And it's almost like it's like this is the one thing you can't do. It's too much pressure. We cannot lose for Coach K at his last home game at the end of a 42-year, arguably greatest career of all time. Too much pressure for a bunch of 18-year-old kids.
It's a lot. I don't know how you prepare for that.
Yeah, and your arch rival. Right. So, I mean, come on, like, what a challenge. Well, they messed it up. They screwed up. So what was interesting, if you didn't see it, you could go back and watch it, or whoever, go watch it if you didn't see this. So they leave, and then there's this 45-minute ceremony planned for after the game. And, of course, this would have been a lot better
after a win.
So, it's kind of quiet, and they go into the locker room, and then they come out. 5 minutes later, the coach has done his post-game whatever rip. And the players walk out, dude, and they are like, half of them are crying. They feel so bad. And then they've got on the floor, right in the middle of the floor, they've got like 6 or 7 chairs. The president of the school is there. The athletic director's there. There's some other people from the community there. He's sitting there. His wife is sitting there, Krzyzewski. And in the very center of the court, there's a microphone. And basically there's this production that's about to take place, which starts with a video that is going to be played for people at home, full screen. Mm-hmm. And the people in the stadium are going to watch it up on the Jumbotron. Well, Krzyzewski stands up right at the beginning of this thing and goes over to the microphone. And he goes, "This isn't part of the program. This is impromptu." And everyone started clapping. Yeah, like, we love you. Like, you can do whatever you want. You're talking. And he literally, I mean, Brad, he was not joking. He was not taking it. He goes, no, stop it. No.
I saw this clip.
Did you see that?
I
And
did.
he had everyone, the whole room went silent. And he goes, what just happened? Not acceptable.
Right.
And then he said, but the season was acceptable, and it's not over. And then he goes and sits down. I mean, he's just like, he was so mad they lost, but for the right reasons.
Right.
I really think he was upset because of the way they played basketball, not for him. I think he can understand, but he needed to address the basketball moment.
Yeah.
It was pretty powerful.
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, you think of him as a coach and this iconic figure in coaching and what makes him that. Mm-hmm. And it's not just basketball. I mean, sure, he's got the national championships, but if you look at the admiration that all his former players have for him, it goes so much more beyond the sport and the game. It's how he cared for them and
yes.
How he prepared them to be husbands and fathers and businessmen and professional basketball players.
Yes,
That's certainly a piece of it. But I think there's a saying that we talk about with our team that, people won't always remember the things you do.
Yeah.
They won't always remember the things you say, but they'll always remember how you make them feel.
Right, yeah.
And even that moment that you just alluded to in that press conference, everybody in that stadium and even watching, like I watched it on TikTok. I saw ESPN replay it on TikTok. It made you feel something.
Yes.
And I think that's what Coach K has, that throughout his career, he's embodied and shown a love and a care for his players and everyone around that program that is sometimes transcendent in sport when it's so much is focused on winning. That he goes way beyond that.
One of the things that he said, which to jump right to that, because I think what he did next personifies exactly what you're saying. He said, this was a quote, Coach K says psychology is the most important aspect of his success. He thinks most people spend a disproportionate amount of time on X's and O's. And then this is a quote from him. There has been an excessive amount of time just being spent with people. He said, these are the people who make the X's and O's work.
Yep.
And so, I think that one of the things about leadership that is so hard and is actually being present, like sitting with people, caring about their lives, asking them what's going on with them, and even the kids you're leading. You can imagine a coach who, even if he's a new coach, 1983, and which I don't know, did he have a championship by 1983? Maybe. I don't think it was quite that early. But if you're a student and then you have a coach who's an authority figure, even just being the Duke coach and having a man like that sit with you and show you genuine interest in your life and say that I want to help you with so much more. And I mean, I'm sure basketball is a tool. Basketball is a great classroom for life, right? What it teaches you about all kinds of things, because it's one thing to lose a game. It's another thing to lose in life. And if you can learn the lesson in the game and not in life, then that's a win.
Yep.
So I think that kind of is a little bit of what came through. But the coolest moment for me, which was similar to what you're saying, which I think is really powerful, is it struck me. So my wife was at a basketball tournament in Cleveland with my older son, and I was at home with the two little ones, and they were running around, and I was watching this moment. And I cry at I'm a crier. So this moment happens. He brings out his entire family on the court. His wife, he has 3 daughters, 10 grandchildren, and their spouses, and his daughter's spouses. And he's just talking to his family. So he's talking to his family. And he says this moment, he said, never once did I ever hear from any one of you, Dad, you love basketball more than me. And I was just and he said, because I don't. And I was like,
that's powerful.
Whoa. And all of them were like, yeah. So, you don't say something like that in front of all those people unless it's actually true.
Right.
And because all their faces communicated that he was telling the truth immediately when he said it. And he wasn't saying it to prove to everyone how great of a dad he was. He wanted to make sure that people understood where his value system was and what his, I want you to know, guys, that everything you're celebrating here means nothing compared to this right here. And probably that some way, shape, or form is a secret to success.
Yep.
Here's how I did this.
And it's all, it's being authentic.
Yeah.
The only way you get that at that point in his life is that you've lived that.
Yeah.
And especially when there's not cameras on you.
Yeah.
All we see is the game. Yep. We don't see what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could be a terrible person, just all about basketball, totally putting his family off. But it's clear with that moment that he lived the right way.
Yeah.
And his whole family knew that.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting too, because then he made this follow-up comment that was so he says, never once has my family said to me, you love basketball more than me, because I don't. And then they all kind of affirm it. And then he said, but my family all really loves basketball, which is just kind of one of those things. I think that, you know, for me, the process of being open-handed and making sure your priorities are in the right spot. Like as soon as you clench onto something, that's what people want to take away from you. But I feel like he had the appropriate view of basketball, and he made his family a priority. And then in turn, and this shouldn't be why you do this, but I do think the results are, they're like, they care about what you care about.
Right.
It's like, I care about them and what they care about. And therefore, that's the way it should work. They care about me and what I care about. And instead of you should care about what I care about,
right.
It's I care about you. And that's it. And I'm not going to bring what I do for a living and make it matter to you. You matter to me. And then they learned, well, then you matter to me. I just think it
happens organically.
It happens naturally. I think that was so powerful. And it's one of those things where sports and the nature of sports, and because of the money and because of what's happened with sports over the past 25 years, the contracts, I mean, we're sitting on this, you know, Aaron Rodgers, $200 million. And I mean, all these things just constantly happening with all that. It can make it feel like, oh boy, this is just another arena for greed and selfishness. I think that when someone sees someone in that level, have that type of humility and have that type of focus. You're talking about a model that everybody needs to see.
Yeah.
Because the character, right? Like the fortitude to stay focused on what is most important when you have everything there, right? You have something thrown. I mean, he's the best in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have justified doing anything he wanted because of his success on I don't know. It just kind of blew my mind.
Well, and I mean, the nature of the business of collegiate and professional sports is that you got to win.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of pressure, and especially in football and basketball is so much more heightened than like even my sport, but there's a pressure to win. And so it's so easy to get wrapped up and caught up in that. And how do you stay grounded and true to who you are and put the right things first?
Yeah.
When there's a lot of pressure in that arena.
Hey, what should be the most pressuring thing, right? Like, do you win at all costs? He said, no, I love my family. I'm going to do this. And if this works, then it's good. I'm sure there's plenty of coaches that love their family and they're great, but they suck at coaching, or they're not good enough to produce the wins that the pressure from the school puts on them. Then they have a choice to make. Am I going to sell my soul to the school and do everything, or am I going to abandon this? And I'm sure, guys get fired. It's
a choice you have to make every day.
It's a choice,
It is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
I cannot imagine that type of pressure. I mean, I can imagine in the sense that, like, you know, nobody's bothering you if things are successful, right? So it's like, yeah, that's great that you love your family. Like, you can't go and say, but my family loves me. So, right. Yeah, but you're losing. We want to win. So it is kind of interesting. I mean, but it's beautiful when I think that the only way it can shape up after 42 years is a genuine, appropriate hierarchy of values. And it's like, I do love my family first. And then what came from that is really, that's kind of what drove the value system that he had for his players. Like, this is the way I do life, and this is what works, and this is a winning way to live. Which I just think, Pete, we need more of that.
Oh, for sure. And it's why the players came back.
Yeah.
And some of them have been his assistant coaches, and it's Duke basketball is this family and brand.
It is.
That's kind of
family.
Transcendent.
It is.
Which is, it's really, really cool.
So to that, I want to go a little bit into the part where I piggyback a little bit or do some more when it ties into what we're just discussing on footnotes. And this is a part where I talk a little bit more about the message from this Sunday. And so this is footnotes. So I just alluded to, Aaron Rodgers signing for $200 million, which is crazy. $156 million guaranteed. Just the kind of money in these billion-dollar sporting world. It's wild.
But college golf coaches aren't making quite that these days.
Yeah, how do you handle that type of money? Because what I talked about this Sunday at church was how money is a god that wants to destroy your life. And it's an interesting way to think about it. You know, we don't necessarily think about it that way. We think it's like this great, wonderful thing and we want more of it, as opposed to understanding that it has a real power to lead us down the false road. Like, it's like a good thing, terrible God. You know, it's like you love your kid, but if your kid becomes in charge, then chaos is going to happen. It's like, we can have money, but if we let money rule, it's only going to destroy our lives. I just wanted to kind of hit on that, because if you listen to the message, I kind of break down the theology that money has always been a god, a false god, that God warns people not to order their life around in the pursuit of, and to have an appropriate relationship with money. And how basically I went through like 6 passages of scripture that show if money is your God, here's what it will do to you. It will destroy your life. It will hurt the people around you. It will cause you emotional grief. It will cause you, it will kind of leave you empty, wanting more. So just like constant thing. But I don't know, like I wanted to just camp a little bit more in money being a god.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about it that way?
Oh, for sure. I heard a fellow coach at Ohio State of a different sport was doing a presentation a few weeks ago, and he talked about how your head is always going to follow where your heart is.
Yeah.
And so I think it goes back to a heart issue of like, what's most important? What do you care about?
Yeah.
And then when that's in the right place, those decisions around money and what you're doing become so much more clear and easier to make.
Yes.
But if your heart is selfish and self-serving, you know, money and everything that stems from that is going to go a totally different direction and can be consuming and controlling.
Yeah. That's interesting. Your head is always going to follow where your heart is. It's similar to where your treasure is where your heart will be, or where your heart is where your treasure is.
Yep.
But where your head, so basically what you actually treasure is going to determine your thoughts. It's going to determine the direction of your life.
Yeah, you may try to distinguish the two, but ultimately it's like what's most important to you, what you have in your heart.
Yeah.
You're going to make your decisions with your head based off that. We don't always follow the logical decision.
No. Yeah, the emotional.
A lot of it comes from like what we value, what makes us feel something.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's interesting to think about money being a god in the sense that no one would ever say like, it's my God. But a lot of people spend their entire lives pursuing it, and it's kind of frivolous pleasures, and they think that they're in control of their lives.
Yeah.
And the whole time they're, you know, it's like have you ever heard the analogy of the frozen knife with the wolf? You ever heard this one? So it's like this idea that, you know, you have this razor sharp knife and you dip it in blood and then you freeze it. And if you put it in front of a wolf, then they're going to lick it and they like the taste of blood. But then eventually the blood goes away and it thaws and the razor reveals, and it cuts its tongue, and its tongue goes numb, but it's bleeding. So it's tasting blood, but it can't feel it. And then eventually it just dies. And to me, I'm just like, I struggle. I'm like, I feel like I need like a constant radical reminder that something it's almost like cryptic, no pun intended. It's like it's designed to like pull us away without us even knowing.
Yep.
And so I don't know, my heart for this series is like, wake up, like we could be serving the God of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, if you live in a affluent community like we do, I mean, a lot of us are. I don't know.
Well, it's so easy to which it's not totally a bad thing, but to strive and to go after achieving and making more and more money. Mm-hmm. And I heard a quote from Jim Carrey that he had said a while ago, but I heard it recently. And
Jim Carrey?
The Jim Carrey.
Okay. This is he's a brilliant human.
Yeah. So it was something along the lines of, I hope everybody reaches the goal of becoming rich and famous, only to realize that being rich and famous isn't the goal.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's, with social media, and there's so much like into like notoriety and influencing and wanting more, that we just kind of get on that road and we're moving. And we lose sight of the why and the intent behind that. And then Jim Carrey is basically saying, like, I did that and I made it. And I
was empty.
That wasn't the objective.
Yeah.
I like you said, I was empty.
Yeah. I said this analogy and then I shared it last week, and I'll share it again if someone's listening to this. One of the things that I said at the beginning of the first week is to do a heart inspection. You might have heard that message.
I think I did.
The heart inspection, like a home inspection, where instead of, wanting everything to be okay, you actually want to find the problem and to see if you're worshiping money. And I just think like we have to we have to be concerned that we're licking the frozen bloody knife, like that we're doing that. Otherwise, it tastes too good and we're not going to stop. And it just feels like it's giving us life, and it just constantly leads to more meaningless. And so you get into this question of the meaning and the purpose of life. Like, what is the purpose of life, right? Which is like the massive, what is the whole thing? And actually, that's kind of where I'm going this Sunday, is how do we experience the greatest meaning in our life? And obviously, the first part is that you've declared that you have a different king and you're going to follow him. Well, what does that look like? What do we look at Jesus's life mostly and go, this must be the meaning of life? If he exemplified this, logically, you would have to say whatever he did and whatever he's telling us to do is in fact the key to the meaning of life. And so I'm going to go that road, and it has to do with such an opposite. It has to do with suffering. It has to do with advancing the people around you. Mm-hmm. It has to do with, but getting to that space, man. I don't know, man.
Being aware of it.
Being aware of it. Like, I'm being dragged away by something that is not good for me. And I have been in that space my life so many times. And just to know.
Yeah.
I shared on Sunday, I shared that what's crazy is you can do a home inspection, kind of like, where are things now? But oftentimes what that will do with your heart and your home, whatever, is go, where was this 10 years ago? And sometimes a problem that you find in the home, it's because something that happened 10 years ago didn't go well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like the foundation. This didn't happen, whatever, right? Like you have a problem in your attic, or you have a problem with your driveway, or you have whatever, and you're like, oh, well, that's because these morons didn't lay this part right, or whatever. They're the moron all the time. It's always whoever else that was there before you. But I knowing that something happened before, I told the church, I said, I look back on some of the decisions that I made. Purchasing decisions, the way I viewed money. And I'm like, I was not motivated from the place of Jesus is king. And and not even Jesus is king, because it's easy to say, well, Jesus is king, but money is money my God.
Right.
That's the thing about it. So I talked about this weekend, I talked about how there was, and I have to make a disclaimer, because this weekend I told a story, Brad, of seeing a pipe in my basement, broken, basically. It was unsleeved, and it was across the top. I showed a picture of it, and then I went up to Katie and I'm like, have you ever seen this broken pipe in the basement? She's like, oh, that's been like that for 5 years. Come to find out that it is the exhaust pipe from my water heater, not my furnace. So I said furnace this Sunday, and I forgot what furnace. Carbon monoxide
would have been very bad.
Very, very bad. So very, very low amounts of carbon monoxide from my water heater. Okay, not the kind that comes from the furnace. Because I'm pretty sure if it was from the furnace, I wouldn't be here right now.
Not good.
Yeah. So I said the wrong thing, but I mean, it's still the same idea that there's this toxic gas. You don't know it's there.
Right.
And it's killing you. I think that's the burden that I have for this is like, let's really inspect to make sure that money is not our God in killing us. Because I think in the world that we live in today, it might be the most powerful one. I mean, It's all the same. Money, sex, and power, and some combination of those things. And the one that seems to at least be in the world that I'm around is that one, right?
Yeah. We stayed with a family at our most recent tournament, and I was having a conversation with the guy we were staying with, and he used the phrase that the devil is the master bender. And what he meant by that is, imagine you're going down a straight road. Well, what the devil's going to try to get you to do is just bend a little bit off that path.
Yeah.
And so if you only bend a little bit and then you keep going, you're going to end up relatively close. But the problem is then you're going to bend a little bit again and a little bit again. And it's not some extreme happening all at once. But before you know it, you've bent just a little bit over and over again. And now you're going the totally wrong direction.
Totally. That is absolutely, I think, what it is. Just a little bit of deceit. Just a little bit of here, it's not that bad.
Yep.
It's okay. It's this, it's go that. And the money does that. Because, I'm like, because
you have to have money.
Yeah.
Like you got to buy food. You got to have a house. I mean, and
I got into that.
It's necessary in our lives in so many capacities.
It's a good tool.
But it's the relationship with that.
And a terrible God. It will ruin your life if you serve it. If you don't handle it, it'll handle you. And all that. I have to tell an off-color funny story based on what you just said. So when I was in seminary, I had a professor. He was really getting into the devil, like talking about the devil. And he was talking about like what the devil does and how he was like, so he's up in front of the whole class. This is like 500 freshman kids, girls and boys learning about the Bible for the first time. And he's like, the devil is a tempter. He's a deceiver. He will lure you in. He will bait you in. He's a master baiter. Dude,
did the crowd?
Oh, so here's the thing that's funny about it. He screams, the devil is a masturbator. And you're in this, like, I was in this Bible college, and it's like this, it's like, this kind of self-righteous bubble thing where everybody acts like they don't think normal thoughts, because if they do, then
you're bad.
You're a bad person.
Yeah.
I come from a public school and 6 brothers and 2 sisters, so he says that. I don't even think he caught himself like saying it. He just kind of kept going, but I laughed. I was like, oh my gosh, you just called the devil a masturbator. I don't think I said that like that loud, but I laughed. And everyone was like looking around me, judging me. I'm like, are you serious? He said it.
They were laughing on the inside.
They were laughing on the inside. Come on, man. That is like, that's when you make a mental note not to go down that road before or again. But
especially as a pastor.
Especially as a pastor. The devil is a masturbator. It's like, you'd have half the people going, that's right, he is. He's a sinner. Whatever. It's just such a funny thing to accidentally say. But no, it's true, man. So that's my burden for leaving scarcity is we've been tricked and deceived into a life of get what's mine, make myself feel good, do what I want to do. And at the expense of others, there's not enough. God hasn't provided for me, so I got to figure it out for myself. All those types of things, and it's like, I talked about this. Like, there's basically one of the things from footnotes that I won't get into, which I kind of alluded to in one of the parts this Sunday. Is I was like, the human eye. I recently read this study of the human eye. Basically, like the human eye has like this very small, basically piece of it that can be in focus. So it's the part we use to identify people's faces, but it also takes the body a tremendous amount in the eye and just it depletes our resources. The eye does. it costs a lot. It's expensive. So basically, in order to preserve resources and to focus, to be able to know where you're going and where you're not going, the eye focuses on one thing, and then it leaves everything else out. So then the mind kind of decides what life is all about based upon what it sees. But since it's only looking at a certain area, it doesn't know what else is out there. So it basically communicates to us, this is what life is all about. This is reality, what you look at. So Jesus actually says the eye is the lamp of the body. What he's saying is wherever you point the flashlight is where you're going to go.
Right.
So he knows this. Amazing, right? Like, so now we know they've cut eyes up and they know the things inside there that actually focus, and that we see peripheral. But one of the studies that they did is that the monkey test, where this guy did this scientific study with 3 teams, so 6 people throwing a ball back and forth. And so for 2 minutes, people are watching these 6 people throw a ball back and forth on a screen. And then after it's over, every person is asked, what did you see? And they all answer, well, I saw, the white team throw to the black team, and we saw this happen. And then like the 4th question down is, did you see the gorilla? And more than 50% of people say, no, I didn't see a gorilla. And then when they said no, they went back, and sure enough, right in the middle. Have you ever seen this video? It's been viral before in the past on social media, where a gorilla, like a dude dressed as a gorilla in like a basketball suit or something like that, walks right into the middle of the video.
And they didn't see it.
And more than 50% of people did not see it, because your mind, it tells you what you want to see depending on what you're looking for. So for a lot of people, we need to be told there's more. You might think you don't have something, but what are you focused on?
Right.
What if you were what if there is a lot more? What if life is not as bad? Now it's suffering and it's tragic and there's difficulty, but what if part of the problem is our inability to actually see? So that's why I got into this whole look at the birds.
Yeah.
Like if you focus on the birds, and that's what she's going, look at the bird, look at the lilies, look, if you focus on how I've provided for them, start to look at different parts of your life. Because you can look at, like, your bank account may be empty, but if that's all you're focusing on, your brain fills in all the rest. Life sucks. But if I take my focus and I go, okay, look at my children. Look at my, spouse, look at my job, look at my friendships, look at my overall health. Like, you start to see, like, there might be actually some truth to the fact that there is enough, and that our focus. So to me, money is one of those things. It's like, we need shocked to look at something else. Another one of the studies was, it's just so funny, your brain basically only cares about yourself unless you tell it to care about something else. So one of the other studies was a person at a counter, like a gas station. And what they would do is the person would come in and order something, and then they would dip down below the counter to get it. And then a different person would come up, and 75% of people didn't notice the difference, because we don't care. We only care about what we think matters, and we only focus on what we think is important. And until someone tells us, that you're blind to the truth.
Yeah.
Because you're only seeing what you want to see or what you're focusing on. And so to me, that's a little bit of what I'm trying to do with this series, is like, there is enough. You should worship the King. That's the thing about the Adam and Eve and the apple. I mean, they're in the Garden of Eden. They have everything they could ever want. Well, what that human eye is focused on, the one little deceitful thing that they actually believe is true. There's not enough, and then they don't see. It's like, just think about it for 1 second. Like, your kid, right? Like you you have kids. You're like, they think that one thing is, none of my friends love me, or I don't have anything. I don't have any toys. I never get anything, right? It's like you're focused on that. Look over there. Like, look around. It's everywhere. You have toys around the house. Like, remember when we just took you to buy that? I don't know. But
it's there. I mean, that was the perception of reality that they had.
It is.
It wasn't that they wanted to sin.
Yeah.
That was a perception of reality that they had formed.
Yes.
And I think that's what we all do.
Yes.
We don't see reality. We see it through a lens and a perspective unique to each one of us.
Yes.
Now, that may be a slight variation off reality, or it may be a big variation off reality.
Right.
But we have to find the awareness and be able to have the spiritual disciplines and checks that we're aware of our unique perspective, and that we're not in line with what reality actually is, and that we at least explore that space and what that looks like.
Truth, reality, so you think about so little, there's so little that you can focus on. And then, like for me, your background, right? So gives you a lens
part of it
of what you see when you're looking at something. And so even if you're focused on something, you may not even see it for what it is because you've been given some filter,
life experiences.
Right? So this whole thing of like what God, I think, is up to in the world is like such a gracious gift of like, because I used to think about the look at the birds thing and him going, look at the lilies of the field. I dress them. Why would I not care for you? And think like, what is that? Like, come on. Like, he's not really going to like give everybody food, and he's not really going to like, people are, but I actually believe wholeheartedly that if we looked at the birds and understood that as a focal point of reality and what God has done with them, and literally, in a literal sense, take 10 minutes, focus on birds. That's true in the world.
Yep.
That's a real thing. That's happening right now. It has nothing to do with you. They're flying around. They're getting what they need. They can fly. They're beautiful. They have homes. They have all of that is provided. You had nothing to do with it. That's true. And how is that not the same for you if in some type of anthropological way we are the extension, or we are the fullness of what it means to be alive? And God made them, and God made us too.
That's mindfulness.
Yeah.
That's how, with golf, you hit a shot and then you walk, and it might be 5 minutes before you hit your next shot. And so your mind can go a lot of different places.
Focus.
And so this whole idea of mindfulness is that when you're in between your shots, you make yourself aware of your surroundings. So you close your eyes, you listen to the wind and the trees. You focus on the birds or the trees, or you become aware of your environment and surroundings of what's real, and you don't let your mind race and create this story and narrative about your performance or how you're playing. I think that's exactly what you're describing.
Focus on what's true. Focus on don't let your mind
create the story, create a different story that could go anywhere. Wow. But it's a way of being present and kind of drawing yourself back into this like center position.
Yeah.
It's really, really powerful.
Okay, so let's head there. We're going to talk to Brad about leadership, and so this is a part of the podcast called The Aficionado. Let's go there. Okay, so Brad, we already said you're the assistant coach for the Buckeyes golf team, men's golf team, and married to Carmen, which she's a Michigan fan. So before you get into your background a little bit, like how in the world did this happen? How does that work? How does that work?
I don't know, to be honest.
I mean, come on.
It's been good for, the last 9 years, and late November this year was a little rough on my end.
Oh man. Yeah, that's right. I mean, geez, it's the first loss since you've been married probably, right?
I think so. Yeah. That's all right. We'll run off 10 more in a row.
I mean, come on, it's got to be. Maybe we needed a little bump there.
I think we'll be ready in Columbus next fall.
So do you guys genuinely have like any type of like? Of course, I know it's not like actually like deep rooted tension around.
Oh, it's pretty deep rooted.
Okay, never mind. Then it is like, but you do like those days, or when that happens, is there?
it's a lose-lose because nothing you can say or she could say. And so I may try to make a comment that's like, oh, I bet it'll be a good game or something.
Yeah.
And she takes it as total offense.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
No, it won't. Or vice versa.
Oh, just shut up.
Yeah. I really think she was trying to be pretty nice after the game this year, but I just took it as like, you're rubbing it in my face.
Yeah. Just being quiet is almost even worse.
Yeah.
But so her dad's a big Michigan fan, so she just like loves him because she grew up around a big Michigan fan. But I mean,
I guess all the kids are Ohio State fans though.
Yeah.
So
this is one funny thing with Carmen that we do. So I would like you to officially confirm or deny this sentiment. We tell Carmen that your oldest daughter, Scarlett, is named after the scarlet and gray that are the Buckeyes because you're a Buckeye. And she says that that's not true at all because of the way that it's spelled. So I need to know.
Well, I mean, if we lived in Ann Arbor, she wouldn't be named Scarlett. That's all I'll say.
That is a confirmation. Yeah, I mean, it's just she can't help that. That's got to be. She's so funny because she actually hates the Buckeyes.
Yeah, she does.
So she loves her daughter, and of course she loves you, and of course
she claims to root for Ohio State golf, but sometimes I even wonder about that.
Yeah, it's like there's moments where you guys like will lose, and she's a little too happy or not affected enough by it, right?
Yeah,
you're not as upset as I am.
Right, for sure.
Okay, so Brad, tell us all a little bit about your golf background and some of your experience in golf. And then let's launch into some of this discussion on leadership.
Yeah, so I grew up in Indiana. My dad was a golf pro. My uncle played on the PGA Tour for 20-some years. And my grandpa was in the sand and gravel business and built a golf course on some of his unused land in the mid-'90s. So I was like 5 or 6 when it opened. And we lived on the golf course. My parents operated it. So I spent my whole life just...
Wow.
I was working at the golf course by the time I was 10, playing and practicing. I mean, I spent in the summers, I was there sun up till sundown for as long as I can remember. And then got recruited, played golf here at Ohio State, best college in the country, no doubt.
So tell a little bit about the recruitment process.
It was between Indiana and Ohio State were my two final choices. I grew up an Indiana fan. It was, I played basketball also in high school, so I'm old enough to remember the Bobby Knight days and watching those teams. It was a big deal in my family. And so I kind of always thought I would go to Indiana, and I came over here on a visit my senior year of high school to Columbus and just fell in love with the place. Went to a football game. It was the Troy Smith, Ted Ginn year, the year they lost in Florida to the national championship.
But 2007 or something like that?
Yeah, fall of 2006.
Yeah.
And it was the Penn State game when Troy Smith made that throw from midfield.
Was that when we were down? No. That's not the game I'm thinking of.
I think we beat them fairly handily. One of his like kind of Heisman moments.
Yeah.
And so we were on like the second row, and I'm like, I'm sold.
That's a big deal. I didn't realize that how did you not go to IU? I mean, honestly, like just because of how much, I've never been to IU. So
it would have been more comfortable. The golf course here was a lot better. So I just felt from a golf perspective, I was going to get challenged and pushed a little bit more. And then with the football game and kind of the general college experience that I was going to have, I was like, this is going to be great. But I came over here. I grew up in a town of 10,000 people.
Where is it called? Peru?
It's Peru. It's north central Indiana.
Wow.
So 10,000 people, everybody knows each other's names, and then come to school here.
That's 1/6 of Ohio State's campus.
50 or 60,000 people, whatever it is now. But I went for it and never looked back. I never regretted it.
Yeah.
Loved my time here.
Yeah.
Had a good college career, kind of got better each year. Was second team All Big Ten my senior year, won an event.
What event?
It was the Florida Atlantic Invitational. It was down in Florida, and then our team finished tied for 5th at Nationals my senior year, which was a huge deal. That's been our best finish at Nationals in like the last 25 years or something of Ohio State golf. So we had a really good run. One funny story is Carmen and I got married the summer before my senior year at Ohio State.
Okay.
So I was married my last year of college.
All right.
And that fall I was playing with Patrick Reed, who has later gone on to become Masters champion.
Oh my gosh.
I think maybe twice.
Really?
Yeah.
I know.
Played on multiple
golf.
Ryder Cups.
Okay. Yeah.
Really good player.
And he was at Ohio State?
No, we were at a tournament and I was paired with him.
Oh.
We played in the same group.
Where did he go to school?
He went to Augusta State.
Okay.
Which they won the national championship that year.
Yeah.
And so we're playing and we're a couple holes into the round and he goes, "Hey, just curious, but like, what's that ring on your finger?" He's like, "Is that like a religious thing or something?" Had no idea. Funny. The thought of marriage was not even anywhere on his mouth. I'm like, "Well, I'm actually married." He's like, "Oh, are you? Why?"
Yeah, right. For a college senior, very, very rare.
Yeah. So I had a great career and experience here, and then actually played professionally for a couple years after college. Mm-hmm. Never made it all the way to the tour, but played the mini tours and was working to try to get my way up. And it's just a hard road, and it became more burdensome than enjoyable. Yeah. And so decided to quit playing. We were starting our family.
Yeah, you also had a kid.
Yeah, we had Scarlett pretty young. Mm-hmm. So just what I wanted, and I just knew that professional golf wasn't that anymore. It wasn't the ultimate that I was chasing. I had things that were more important for me. So a few years passed, and then I got the opportunity to come on to the assistant coaching role here at Ohio State. So we didn't have to move. It was a place I was really familiar with. Dream opportunity.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so this is my 7th season coaching.
Wow. 7 years.
Yeah.
Huh. That's it, dude. Yeah,
I still get asked occasionally if I'm a player when we're on the road. Yeah. So
looking
as long
good,
as that
feeling
keeps
good.
happening,
That's right.
I'll be happy
Staying
with it.
young. That's got to keep you young.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids that you're around and just the physicality of what you're doing all the time, just right.
Oh yeah, I try to stay up with the culture, but there'll be stuff that they bring up that I'm like, what is this?
What is going on? Yeah, you have to be dad at times, I'm sure.
Yeah,
lots of times.
For sure.
So, tell us a little bit about what you do day in and day out with your players and just your role on the team.
Yeah, so I do a little bit of everything. I'm involved in coaching guys from a swing and short game standpoint. I help them. We have an academic advisor, but I work with him a lot on making sure guys are covered with missed class and doing what they're supposed to. Grades are in check.
What's the standard? Like, what do they have to do from a grade perspective to stay active?
There's a couple different things from an NCAA perspective, but our team GPA last year was like a 3.55. We had the highest team GPA at Ohio State out of 36 sports.
Wow.
So our guys kill it in the classroom. Is that because
all these guys are going to go be accountants and they're all geniuses anyway?
We have a handful of finance majors. But no, they do a good job.
Yeah.
There's recruiting, so it's mainly in the summer, but I'll go out and watch junior golfers play and evaluate them, host them for visits in the fall at football games. So it's not the same every day.
Right.
There's a lot of variance as far as what I get to do, which I like that about the role.
Lots of travel.
Yes.
Lots of travel during this season. And the season's right now, right?
The season's September and October, and then basically February through May in the spring.
Okay. And so how does it look from like what's a season of golf at Ohio State, like in terms of regular season, Big Ten, tournaments? Like, is it similar to what's happening with basketball right now, or how does it all lay out?
Yeah, we play roughly 10 events in the regular season, and so we don't play head-to-head, though. So each one of those tournaments may have anywhere from 8 to 15 teams at it.
And is it league play, or is it just...
It could be everybody.
Okay.
Like this past tournament we were at had a couple other Big Ten teams, some teams from down south, some mid-major level teams. And so we play that through the course of the year, and then the Big Ten championship is at the end of April. And so it's not based on like your performance during the year.
You just show up.
One 3-round tournament. All 14 Big Ten teams are there.
Okay.
And whoever wins that tournament is the Big Ten champion in golf.
So is that the goal? Is the goal to progress every year, get better, and so you show up in peak form at the Big Ten champion or the tournament?
Yeah. Yep. And then after Big Tens is NCAAs.
How does that work?
So just like other sports, a conference champion is an automatic qualifier.
Okay.
And then there's so many like at-large bids.
Okay.
But the at-large bids are based primarily on your ranking through the course of the season.
Okay.
So those 10 regular season events,
they affect you're
basically gathering wins. You know, if there's 15 teams, we're gathering wins and losses versus 14 other teams. And if we're losing to the best teams by a narrow margin, then it's going to pull our ranking up. And if we're getting beat by teams that are ranked, in the 100s, it's going to pull our ranking down.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of watching that through the course of the year. And there's kind of a magic number as far as where that ranking is to qualify.
Okay. So far, good year, right?
Yeah, we're having a good year. We have a good team. We're pretty young. So I'm excited about the direction we're moving.
What have you seen in terms of players? I mean, you've got at Ohio State, Malachi Branham. He comes out the beginning of the year. He's just kind of role playing, and then he just goes off this last half of the year and becomes freshman of the year. But a lot of it, and they talk about this with a lot of these quarterbacks now too, with all the 7-on-7s and just the development at such a younger age. What have you seen in 7 years in terms of where players are when they come as a freshman to the school in their development?
Yeah, I mean, even from when I was playing, which wasn't that long ago, kids are getting better earlier.
Yeah.
There's no question. But there's also a balance there of, I see certain kids that they're the best in the country at 12, 13, 14, and then they start to go down and kind of fizzle and lose the enjoyment of passion by the time they get to college. And so there's definitely a balance and a perspective there that you have to keep as you're a youth, progressing through the sport and into college.
So we can talk about sports all day. Are there like 5-star? Like, how do they do from a recruiting perspective?
There's a ranking system.
Do you have any of those? Like, does Ohio State garner attention from top 20 players in the country?
Yeah, the Ohio State brand is so big.
Yeah.
In our sport, weather is a factor that's constantly talked about, just because it's an outside sport. And so we do have one of our sophomores was the National Player of the Year in his class his senior year of high school.
Okay.
Where? So he went to Green High School up in the Akron-Canton area.
Oh, okay.
So he's an Ohio kid.
Wow.
But he visited all over the country,
and
all the biggest programs, and we ended up getting him to Ohio State.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh. So, okay. I want to hear so much about your interactions with the players individually, but just start generally speaking, what is leadership, in your job, and how would you define it generally, or I guess contextually in golf, or both?
Yeah. Leadership's everything. I think it's hard to define, but probably the best definition I could kind of put together, and I'm sure I took this from somebody, but it's taking someone on a journey or to a place that they wouldn't otherwise go by themselves. So it's not that you're doing
I've never heard it said that way, and I have a master's in Christian leadership, so that's a very unique articulation.
Yeah, so it's not that you're doing it for them, and it's not that you're pushing, but you're kind of alongside someone, helping them see potential, see a vision, see a path, move forward that they probably otherwise wouldn't be able to do by themselves, or it'd take a lot more time, energy, and effort.
Yeah. So, talk about how that manifests in golf and in what you do with your players.
Yeah, I think in my role, in any leadership role, trust is paramount, and that's kind of the cornerstone.
Okay.
And so I think trust is broken into 3 different categories.
Okay.
Most people think of competency as in your knowledge of, in my case, it would be golf.
Right.
It's different in every business, but it's knowledge. And I think the general idea is that is basically everything and the most important thing.
If you know everything,
then you're a leader.
Okay.
But that's only one piece of the puzzle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you have competency, you have to have care.
Okay.
And I would argue that care is the most important, because your players or the people that you lead, they have to know that you care about them, that you're going to be there for them, because you may have all the knowledge and insight in the world, But if I don't think that you have my back, I'm not going to run for you. I'm not going to go to an uncomfortable place because you told me to.
Right.
If I don't believe that you care about me and have my best interest at heart.
Yep.
So that's second. And then third is consistency.
Okay.
You have to be there over and over again. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. I heard Tom Ryan is the wrestling coach at Ohio State.
Okay.
Tremendous respect. He's one of my favorite people just to kind of sit and listen to. He's incredible. And I know nothing about wrestling.
Right, yeah.
I know nothing about wrestling. But, he said building a relationship is a lot like building a muscle. So it takes intention, it takes some sweat, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes some stress at certain points. Sometimes those relationships are built because you work through a hard situation together. You can't just sit there and everything be easy and expect it to grow. And so I think when it comes to trust, you got care, competency, and consistency are the key points.
And so you what do? Do you tell players this is our DNA as it pertains to kind of how we're going to lead you through this, or do you just manifest that? Like how does that look with you, between you and your player?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of an interesting story. So we have a couple kids on our team from Europe. And so, we're guys, we talk about sports all the time in our locker room. It's always about sports, but in the fall, it's always about American football. And so last year we had 2 kids from Sweden on the team who they don't care about American football. And that's primarily what the discussion is, Buckeyes, NFL.
Sure, yeah.
And they're just kind of quiet. Like they don't throw a fit, but they're not really engaged.
You can tell
dialogue.
You're not engaging them. Yeah.
Yeah. So these 2 especially were huge English Premier League soccer fans.
Okay.
They each had a different team. And so last spring when they were both in our top 5 in our lineup. And so last spring we were on the road a lot. They were in my van a lot, and they were constantly talking about this English soccer.
Okay.
And I know nothing of that world.
Yeah, right.
It's totally foreign to me.
Yeah.
And so
I don't even really follow MLS.
I don't either. Soccer in general is just, I've never really followed it. And so about halfway through the spring, when they were having their conversation about English soccer, I was the one quiet because I was like, I don't know the teams, the players. I have no clue what these guys are talking about. So I decided that I'm going to pick a team so that I have a rooting interest in this English soccer league.
Yeah.
And so I ended up picking a team that's one of my players' like arch rival. And so I just started to watch a few games, follow him on Instagram so I know who's on the team, and just try to do it as a way to like make a connection with these guys. And so fast forward, we're at this tournament. This was 2 days ago, and the team that I've adopted as my team is playing in the afternoon, and we have this 36-hole day where we're at the golf course from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. Yeah. So it's a long, grueling day. My team's playing in the afternoon. I checked the score at halftime on my phone, and they're up 3-0. And so I see this other kid, this Swedish kid, walking on the hole next to where I am at the time. And I like sprint over this hill through the trees, and I go to find him, and I'm like, hey, guess what? And I was like, my team's up 3-0. And he has this like chuckle and did that moment, like, can you quantify what that moment does? No, but I think that shows him that I care about him. In a long day, it was a way to like relax a little bit, break down the kind of tension and mental exhaustion that you're kind of facing at that point. And so just finding different ways that it's not some elaborate tactical or like informative thing, but just ways to like show people that you care and try to make a connection. And this kid especially has like opened up exponentially over the past 6 months.
Wow.
I'm not saying it solely because of me and I started talking about soccer with him, but it was just a way to like try to make him feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. Now, the context coaching, like when you describe and define coaching, like what does it look like for you? Is it those relationships? Is it, like you said, those 4 parts, but the instruction, like what does the classic coaching look like for you as opposed to like practice for a basketball team and then like standing on the sidelines? Like what does coaching mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, from a golf perspective, I'll watch guys hit balls on the range, putt. I'll go out on the course with them, and I may just walk beside them for their round and talk through different shots. A lot of what I'm coaching isn't. It's not like I'm trying to rebuild somebody's swing on the driving range.
Right.
It's how can you maximize your on-course strategy?
Yeah.
How can you get the most out of your game? Because in theory, if we're recruiting them, they should be pretty good.
They're good when they get to you.
Level.
Yeah.
We just want to try to help them maximize and reach their full potential.
Yeah.
But I think, hitting back to what we talked about with Coach K, it's not just about the sport.
Right.
And I heard somebody talk about this idea recently that was, a transactional versus a transformational leader.
Yeah.
And so if you think of a transaction, it's just like, hey, what are you going to do for me?
Right.
How are you going to perform? What are you going to shoot today?
Yeah.
It's very just solely golf versus the transformational leader is helping them grow as a person, helping them go somewhere they haven't been before.
I mean, your main theme with leadership is the connection, the relationship. Do you find that, first of all, how did you learn that from somewhere? Like, how did you figure that piece out?
Yeah, I mean, when I started coaching 7 years ago, I thought I had it all figured out.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, how did you learn? Of course, right? You start off, you think you know.
And I realized that because I knew what I did as a player and I knew how I learned it. And I was like, this is just what you got to do. This is how it's done.
Yeah.
And I've since learned in my time as coaching that there's so many different ways to do it. And everybody does come from a different background and have a slightly different perspective. Yeah. And so I feel like now 7 years in, I almost know like
nothing.
A lot less.
Yeah.
But everybody's different.
What are some of give a story or just an example of the biggest challenge or maybe even a failure in golf where you tried something, it didn't work, or it was a stressful thing that you had to figure out, and then one of your greatest successes in terms of all those pieces coming together?
Yeah, that's good. I think in terms of a failure, we've had a few kids that just we haven't been able to get kind of buy-in.
Yeah.
And I think it probably goes back to that trust. These were situations where we inherited players when we started.
Okay.
So we didn't recruit them.
They're like freshmen,
which is an interesting
sophomore
kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
And so just knowing things that would really help them grow as golfers and also as people in certain circumstances, and just not being able to kind of push the right buttons to reach and connect with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard.
So you in your mind or your experience, you have some kid, they come through the program, they leave, and it's like,
yeah,
we
totally.
just never cracked through, never quite
fully clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of fade away.
Right. And then I think kind of when the opposite of that happens, it's super rewarding. And it's not even, most of the time, it's honestly not with golf either. Right. It's like, you see this person, we had a kid who...
Yeah, how many guys leave even Ohio State and raise to the highest level, or even play any version of professional?
I mean, it's like any sport. The percentage is
2%.
Extremely low.
Yeah.
But we had a kid who... He was from California and he was homeschooled through high school. Mm-hmm. And so he came to Ohio State and that's a long way from home. Mm-hmm. School-wise, it was a shock versus what he kind of had been doing. And it was a bumpy road for most of his career as far as academically, work ethic at times. Mm-hmm. And then by his last semester, it like clicked and he was a different person.
Wow.
And he was taking care of his school stuff ahead of time, not having to worry about it on the road or if he could even travel. Mm-hmm. He was working hard in the gym and his performance like skyrocketed that last semester. So that was really cool to see, just kind of his progression and development. And then when it kind of clicked for him, I felt great when he left us that like this guy can do a lot, whether it's golf or anything else.
Who's the guy that you play? Oh, it's the guy you played with, who's on the tour.
Bo Hogue.
Yeah, Bo Hogue. So did he win the Memorial? Or he was like,
no, he played in the Memorial,
but he was competitive.
Yeah.
He was like in the last couple groups or something on Sunday, I think. Did I tell you that I did the thing that like you're not supposed to do at the Memorial? Yeah, right. No surprise. But like in golf, like you're not supposed to like talk to these guys. But like he was going from, I think it was from 12 to 13. So like 12 is the one that's over the water.
12 is the par 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
It might have been that. He might have been going, if whatever. I was standing there in the ropes between the at the Memorial, and this guy walks by, and I said to him, and he was like looking at people. Like there's times when no one's looking at anybody. He was looking, and I was like, "Hey man, I work with Brad Smith's wife." I said that exactly. Hey, man, I work with Brad Smith's wife. And he looked at me and he smiled and he gave me a thumbs up. I was like, okay, because you were his roommate, right?
Yeah, we were roommates, yeah. And I got to caddy for him. He played in the Corn Ferry event at the Scarlet course in the fall, and I got to caddy for him, which was a really cool experience to kind of spend the week together and try to help him. And
what'd you learn from him? Like where he is, he's like top 150 in the world?
Yeah.
So that's
he's really
insane.
good.
Yeah, I mean that's just
no. It was fun to observe him go about his business and the professionalism and we try to instill that, but the level he's at versus the collegiate level, it's just a whole nother discipline, commitment, and he manages his emotions in games so well. Wow. And that's what we preach.
Yeah,
but the majority of college players it's highly emotional in their sport and their performance.
Yeah.
And so with emotions, you can't say, hey, don't feel a certain way.
Yeah, right.
Because you hit a ball in our sport, you hit a ball in the water, you're going to feel something. You can't think, I'm not going to feel anything, because you are, because you care. But it's what do you do with that emotion?
Talk about that. How do you coach a kid through that?
So we try to say, use that emotion or that feeling as a cue for awareness. Don't use it as a cue to action or a reaction.
A reaction, yeah.
So, you hit a ball in the water, you feel upset. Okay, I'm aware that I'm feeling upset. I know I need to do these things to clear and be ready for my next shot. So that would be the appropriate way.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times happens is hit a ball in the water, you're mad, you walk up to the green still mad, you drop your ball, you hit your next shot mad, you maybe don't execute that well. Your anger or frustration, it starts spiraling downward, and your train is off the tracks.
How do you just have to work through it with them, right? Like you just reminding them, like you can't bring that emotion into you got to dispense of it appropriately, right? Like
I mean, you can say it, but it's not going to change,
right? They have to
over and
figure
over.
It out.
There has to be failure. It's got to happen. Then you let enough time. You don't talk about it immediately after it happens, but you kind of debrief after that tournament.
Right,
How can we have a better game plan for when? Because people, I feel like we don't expect adversity, which I think is the wrong approach.
Yeah,
adversity is gonna happen.
Yeah.
No matter how well you prepare, adversity is gonna happen. And there's a story about Michael Phelps and his swimming coach and all the different things that they practiced for adverse situations. So he would be at swimming practice and the coach would tell him to not secure his goggles so that water would get in his eye.
Yeah.
He would make him stand on the board or whatever for 5 extra minutes in case there was some unexpected delay. He would rush him through warm-ups. So Phelps would practice all these different situations so that when that adversity came in the Olympics,
you're ready.
He had lived through it. He knew what to do. And I think that's super powerful in anything that like Sunday morning for you guys, mics go out. You don't just everything's going to go smooth sailing.
Right.
No,
what are you going to do when it doesn't?
Systems and contingencies in plan for okay, this person is going to cover this role. And so I think with golf, what we try to do is like, let's not expect to play our best round. Like we're gonna be confident in ourselves and our abilities, but when we make 2 bogeys in a row or we hit a ball in the water, like we're gonna try to talk through and have a plan of like how we're gonna react and handle those different situations.
Do you have? I love that. I mean, it makes me think so many things. My wife's a clinical therapist, and she talks about emotion. Like people think emotions are wrong. They're not wrong. They have messages.
Yep.
So her whole thing is let the train come to the station, let the emotion get off the train, tell you what it wants to tell you, then put it back on the train and let it go.
Yeah.
Let it breathe, because otherwise it'll burst.
For sure.
Which is what you're doing, right? Like you're going, process the emotion. You are angry, and now what are you going to do next, right? What's the next thing?
Right. Well, it's like the whole like positive thinking or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's hear that. Because that's what, you hear the kind of cliche think positive.
Yeah. But I mean, if something bad happens, if you're just thinking positive, you're not in reality.
Yeah.
You're not actually dealing with it.
Right.
So like you just have to have a plan for how to deal with those hard situations, negative things that may happen, whether that's sport, business.
Sure.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the cliche of think positive, like doesn't help you fully deal with the situation and work through it.
So what are some of the like competitive edge things that actually do give people, I understand. So processing the failure.
Yep.
So, I mean, I've heard what Tiger, the vision, the maybe that's not positive thinking, but what are some of the tools that you give for optimal performance? So I understand what you're talking about, like how to holistically manage a player through the performance, but are there things that you tell them to get that you think gain them the competitive edge?
Yeah. I mean, I think in your preparation in daily life, you have to do things that make you uncomfortable.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, that's
as humans, we're designed biologically that we seek comfort, safety.
Yeah.
It's who we are.
Right. Yes.
And that's so good. If we just hold on to that and never put ourselves in situations where we could fail or could have to have a hard conversation or work through something difficult, when it happens, when it's the most important that we want to be able to perform and handle that, we have no chance.
Yeah, that's good. So you will tell a player like that part of what you're doing with your practices, and they're in the program, is these disciplines, this is how you gain the competitive edge.
Embrace the discomfort. And I think fitness in the weight room is,
which I want to talk about CrossFit because we both love CrossFit.
Yeah, we're nerds in that.
Yeah.
But I almost think that does more for people mentally than physically. I mean, there's so many physical boundaries.
You mean working out?
Working out, pushing your body, just in whatever methodology that you follow or that you participate in. Doing that consistently when you don't want to, when it gets hard and you have to push through and keep doing. Like, I believe if I'm at the Big Ten Championship and I'm on the tee with another coach and another player, I am mentally tougher and more ready and able to like coach my guy better than that other coach because of how hard and uncomfortable my workouts are, and that I've done that over and over, that regardless of pressure, circumstance, like I'm going to be able to mentally hang in there better than any other coach. It may not be rational, but
no, I don't know.
I think that.
No, I mean, it's painful. I mean, working out that's the whole idea, right? Is you break yourself down, you get stronger, you're ready for the discomfort. So a workout is literally that.
Yeah. And but if you never go there in anything in your life, when you give a message on Sunday morning and it doesn't go or land how you want it to, or during the message, you realize that you're just kind of not off and feeling it. Like if you're not used to that discomfort or just safety, if you're not used to being out of that, like you're going to crumble when the lights are the brightest.
So, okay. Talk a little bit about the whole, like, visualization of performance? Like, is that a real thing? Does that work? Because I mean, you do hear this in golf.
Yeah.
See the shot, whatever. I mean,
the ball,
the ball, the ball, send the ball home, whatever.
Right.
Like, is that a real thing that, like, I mean, I think I did hear Tiger talk about some type of visualizing every shot that he's going to hit.
Yeah. I mean, so a lot of guys, they'll stand before hitting a shot, they'll stand directly behind the ball, and they're looking straight ahead, and they're trying to see where they want the ball to start, the flight, it's the height, curvature, and then where it's going to land. But as you walk into the ball, there has to be something switched to where you go from this kind of thinking visualization to just we call it a play zone.
Natural.
Where you're natural, you're not thinking about, oh, what am I doing in my backswing and my follow through? Like, at a certain point before you hit the ball, it should become just
natural.
You're kind of in the moment, in the flow.
Okay. This is a little bit of a different question. Do you, when a kid shows up and they've got their, no pun intended, their bag of tools, if you will, both from like their physical ability of the game, their emotional perspective, their personality, like, do you feel that the tools that you give them or the coaching that you give them, that almost anybody can learn if they have a baseline of skill, whatever that is? There has to be a threshold of, if they go to Ohio State, they have to have a level of competency that is, I'll say it's in the excellent range.
Yep.
I mean, these guys all shoot, whatever their scratch, they're +5 or I don't know what they are, but they're all like that, right?
Yep.
For the most part.
Yep, they're legit.
So, and then there's this whole other tier. So from where they come when they show up to making it to whatever, at least I'll say maybe a championship level team. Can every player go there? Or do you see things where you're like, this person is not going to be able to, because they have physical limitations, because they have, because I always view, I grew up in my wife's family's a golf family. So like, I remember seeing, there's like this giftedness. I mean, you go watch the Memorial Tournament or anyone that just plays golf and you're like, okay, like that person looks like they have a gift.
Right.
So I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at more than just your ability to take them there. How much does giftedness, whether it's temperament, physical ability, play into someone's ability to play at the level that you coach them?
So I think this is really interesting. Talent, it's definitely a factor.
Yep.
But it's certainly not the only factor. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot, is we see people in their greatest moments. So think about Coach K. We talked about, the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford
in the fourth
Cooper
quarter.
Cup.
Yep. The no look pass.
Yeah, Nadal winning the Australian Open to become the most Grand Slams all time in tennis. We see just these small little snapshots of people in their greatest moment
on the bright stage.
And I think the natural inclination is that, they're just they're just special, they're just different. And I think talent is there, but it goes way beyond what got that person to that moment. Yeah. And I think we often totally miss sight of that.
Yeah.
And with the Super Bowl, I saw an interview with Stafford. They were talking about that fourth quarter with Cooper Cup. Like, that was amazing. Yeah. You guys are incredible. And he's like, that was just hard work.
Right.
He was like, that was going in, spending hours throwing the basic routes, getting our timing down. It's not the sexy stuff to do.
Yeah.
There are no cameras.
Yeah.
It's just over and over and over again, doing the basics. And then they were able to do it on the biggest stage. Right. But I think it's so easy to just see, well, they're just
really
best.
talented.
They're the best.
They're just talented.
Just because they're the best.
You got this combination of talent, insane work ethic.
Yep.
And your
and the
team.
mentality. Yeah.
I mean, you think about his story. I mean, that guy has been good for a long time. He might arguably be worse than he was 5 years ago in terms of his age.
Yeah.
But here he is on this team with all these great players and this different thing. And now he's exceeding. So it's like, Matt Stafford's the best ever. Well, he's been in the league for 12 years playing for the Detroit Lions. And, he worked probably just as hard. Yep. But so it's the people around you.
Yeah.
It's
and the thing with that work is there's no guarantee that it's going to pay off.
Right. Yeah. So talk about that.
You have to do that. So have you seen 14 Peaks, the documentary on Netflix?
No. What's it about?
So there are 14 mountain peaks in the world that are over 8,000 meters in height.
Okay.
And the previous record of somebody climbing all of these peaks was like 6 or 7 years.
It took them 6 or 7 years to climb them all?
To climb all 14.
Jeez.
And a guy did it in
one every 2 years.
Yeah. A guy did it in 6 months just recently.
What the heck?
So, it's like Mount Everest, Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, right,
it's like they're over in like Pakistan and China and Nepal.
Yeah.
And so it's a documentary of this guy doing this. And I mean, we're not just talking like he beat the record by weeks.
This is...
it's astronomical what he did and climbing. It's an endurance, and it's a really interesting...
the risk of death on these things coming down the mountain.
Yeah, his team. And he even like stopped along the way to like help people that were stranded in the midst of like trying to set this record.
So what?
And so it's
Give it away.
But
what happened? What did he do?
Well, what I found interesting was, once again, you see this moment of this guy who did this remarkable thing, and you're like, oh, he's just different.
Yeah. No.
Which he does have some, lung capacity things that are special. But one of the things he said in the documentary was that I wake up every day and I'm competing against myself to be better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I thought that was profound.
Yeah.
Like, if we all did that and just thought, okay, today I'm going to try to be a little bit better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Where would we all be able to go? What would we be able to accomplish if we set our mind to it? I think we tend to just get in the pattern and the routine of, I'm going to wake up, take the kids to school, go to work, pick up the kids, go to basketball practice with them, go to sleep.
Yep.
Do it again.
Yep.
But it's like he was very adamant that he had this mindset of that he wasn't satisfied, that he was trying to compete against himself to be better than he was the day before.
So conceptually, in the way that it lands in our lives is profound, right? I mean, if you take every area of your life and you think to yourself, I can be better. I can get better at how I engage my kids. I can get better at how I prep for a sermon. I can get better, so I'm going to try. Like, imagine what could happen if you do that. So, practically speaking, what did he do to prepare himself? Like, how did he? Do you know? Did he get it?
I mean, he was the first. I think he's from Nepal, and he was the first of his nationality to he was in some elite army unit in England.
Okay.
And so it was this special, it was like a Navy SEALs equivalent in England. And so he trained, and that was a goal, and he moved to England and got selected for this like special forces group.
Okay.
And then he kind of moved up the ranks in the special forces group. And then he really wanted to do this climbing thing because a lot of times he said what would happen is that English or quote unquote Western climbers would come to Nepal, where a lot of these peaks are, and they would use the local Sherpas, to help them climb, but they would get all the notoriety. And so he wanted to do it
by himself,
to be a Nepalese or
Nepali or whatever,
somebody from Nepal, to actually be the one who like was doing the climbing and just obliterated this record.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
That is crazy, man. I wouldn't do that one time.
You should watch it.
I mean, would you do it? Would you climb a mountain?
Hearts aren't big for me.
I mean, dude, like a lot of people die doing that, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's the avalanches. I mean, they're at that altitude, you only have so much oxygen. Tanks. I mean, it's... So
he had all the tanks and all the stuff, and he
had a crew of like a couple other guys that did it with him.
His pace and ability to continue to move with low oxygen and strength.
He did 3 of the peaks in like 48 hours that were close to each other.
What in the world?
One of them was like Mount Everest, the most dangerous, highest one on Earth or whatever.
I know there's a similar story, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's about marathons or the Ironman. There was some guy that did like 20 of them or something in a year, or some crazy, or in 3 weeks or whatever, where, just that level of discipline and then giftedness and the drive and the focus. But I like the idea of, back to the I, like if you really did focus on something, if you really tried to improve, what could you do?
Right.
What could you do? So the whole, it's like that practice doesn't make perfect. It makes progress.
Yep.
The journey, the process. I mean, the little I know, I've watched some documentaries with like Nick Saban.
Yeah.
That tends to be enjoy the process. Fall in love with the discipline of the daily routine and being uncomfortable, and do it perfect in practice a bunch of times and get better every day. And then who knows what can happen.
Yeah. I think there's kind of a dichotomy there where you have to have a long-term goal and a patience that you're going to withstand and be in it to really improve and go somewhere over time. So there's that long-term patience, but then you also have the short-term like urgency.
Yeah.
That I'm going to capitalize on today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to compete against myself today. I'm going to push myself today.
Yeah.
So that I can make that progress over time.
So, all right. So the open. So CrossFit, for all of you who are listening, we're going to geek out for a minute on CrossFit. If you don't know CrossFit, it's it's a sport that started like in 2008 or 5 or something like that. And it's like a cross training, kind of almost all parts of fitness put into one.
Yeah, it's like strength, endurance, mobility,
Olympic. There's like Olympic lifting. There's endurance. There's gymnastics. So it's kind of like I'd call it like if you know anything about the Catholic Church, basically like the Catholic Church means like the universal church. And so if you're part of the Catholic Church, they kind of everyone's on the same page in terms of like the same message is being preached in every, it's the same homily all across whatever the country. I'm sure it breaks up into different ones, but basically it's like there's like the main thing and then it comes down, and like that's kind of the way CrossFit is. It's like there's all these boxes, and of course they do their own workouts, but then the open comes and everybody's doing the open, and it's like an open like the US Open or wherever, where anybody can do it.
Anybody
can qualify. And then, it used to be 5 workouts, 1 a week for 5 weeks. Now it's 3. And, you do these things. And then if you qualify and your times are better or whatever, then you can make it to the regional and then to the games and all that stuff. But it is also like, there's a very rich culture. These places that are CrossFit boxes is what they call them, right? Where you're an affiliate, you pay for being a CrossFit because it's a brand. And then, you train in all these different disciplines and stuff, and there's skills and strength. And so, go through it. Like you have skills like how you do pull-ups and the progression there. Like when you start, you'll just do 1, and then you end up doing like kipping, and then you end up doing chest to bar, and then you end up doing butterfly. And then if you get really good, then you start to do muscle ups or whatever. So you kind of build, and all of it has to do, there's a strength component. You have to do the form right. Same with like double unders, at first you do singles, and then you end up doing doubles, and then your skill can progress. I mean, like, Olympic lifts like the snatch and the power clean and all those things have to do with the motion that you're in, the form of your body, the explosiveness, doing things properly so then you can increase your weight over time. Like I would say like the power snatch is like probably one of the most technically advanced movements, and to be able to do it at a heavy weight is pretty impressive, but it's very much a skill that you add strength to.
Yep.
So, then there's just like kill you, box jumps, box jump burpees,
laying on the floor,
so. But right now we're in the open. So you love CrossFit, but it really does apply in a lot of ways. I mean, it is one of those where I joined CrossFit years ago because it was close to my house. It had a plan.
Yep.
Because like I don't want to go to the gym and decide what I'm going to do.
Right.
Even in the day of like you can just look something up and no, I want to go in where there's like a plan that's not just like, here's what you do, but someone that's going to tell me what to do, and that it's part of something bigger than myself that leads me somewhere, because I don't have time to figure out where I'm going. Like I want to work out and get a good workout. So I want someone to tell me like, do this, like I remember learning kipping pull-ups, and it's like, okay, whatever, but I did it. And then it led to more.
Yep.
But, so it was the proximity to my house, having a plan, having a person, an instructor, and then people like a group, like, and that's one of the community part. So the fact that you do the workout most of the time with people means it kind of keeps you honest. There's a competitive component to it where it's like I'm competing with other people, I'm pushing myself. That's why I fell in love with it. And then it just kind of evolved into something that I've gotten more into over time. I have to be careful. If I'm not careful, I'll hurt myself. I actually hurt myself not doing CrossFit, which is annoying because you do all these movements and it's supposed to be this cross-functional lifestyle fitness. And then I'm like playing basketball with my kid and I pull my groin, which is probably more of a commentary on my age than it is on CrossFit.
I didn't say it.
Yeah. So tell me just a little bit, like you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
What do you love about it? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's kind of what we talked about a little bit that, it's a sport. And so there's competition amongst other people, but ultimately you're competing against yourself.
You are.
And it's like, how far can I push myself to do the best I can do in that day? And then the community aspect of it's huge
awesome,
too.
Yeah.
Like I'm judging right now because you actually have a judge while you're doing the workout. So one of our good mutual friends, like I'm judging him when he's doing it, and I'm trying to like not only judge him but kind of coach and encourage him through the workout and be like, you're on a good pace, or you can pick it up a little bit. So it's just a fun aspect to try to see what you're made of, and how much can you take to kind of hurt for 10 or 15 minutes.
So just to give some perspective, one of the things it does is it does humble you and show you physically. So in ways it's really encouraging, because if you do the open, like I did the open, and the first year I did it, like I was in the top, I think 80th percentile for like anyone in the open, which is like pretty good.
Yeah.
Except compared to what? Yeah, I mean, like you look at the best in the world and the disparity between the best in the world and you, I mean, it's a joke. It's like, oh my gosh. So which is good, but you realize if you comparing, it's not about comparison in every aspect, but like you understand a level of fitness that you have. Most people in the world aren't doing anything like this.
Right.
And so you feel a little bit of confidence from that. And then, when you look at how excellent you could get or who the best in the world are, it's just overwhelming and humbling. So so basically the open, they put out these workouts, and they put out one a week, and you have all weekend to do the workout and submit your score. And then you're compared with people in your age group, and compared to all men, and then women compared to all men, and all that stuff. It's cool. You get to see where you are. So the 22.2, which is the second workout.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just describe this for people. Tell everybody what it was.
So it was, the rounds were 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10.
Yeah.
And then once you get to 10, you would go back down 9, 8, 7, all the way to 1. And the movements were, for guys, it was a deadlift at 225 pounds, and then a bar-facing burpee, which is where you do a burpee and then you hop over the barbell. And so you would do one deadlift, one burpee, 2 deadlifts, 2 burpees, all the way up to 10, and then back down. So there was a 10-minute time cap, and if you finished, it would be 100 reps of each total.
Yeah, if you finish it and you go all the way up and down the ladder, 200 movements, and then... So, the thing that was crazy about this to me, I saw the workout, and I always like to see my initial judgment of the workout versus what it really is. And I thought to myself, I bet at least one of our guys at our gym will finish this workout.
Oh, man.
So did Alex finish it? I don't think he did.
He didn't the first try. I don't know if his
trying
retest
again.
He did.
He's like this 25-year-old kid who's a total stud. Anyone that would be like, he's got to be one of the best. He probably won't even finish it. Now, the best guys in the world, when they announced it, they finished it in 7:20, 7:40, whatever. So I don't know if you're out there and you're listening to this. So I scaled it. And I did 135, and you don't have to hop. So there's a difference, right? Because hopping's harder, right?
Yeah,
you have
it takes more.
Explode, and you jump. So you get to step over the bar. And I got 160 some. All right. Now it's a lot easier.
I got the 130s.
Yeah,
but
dude,
you
did 225.
I did. Yeah, but that was at 10 minutes, and some of the guys were finishing in 7.
Some of the guys were
200 reps.
So. Like some people, you have to go do this. Like if you're just like, put 150 pounds on the bar, whatever you have, put 135 pounds on the bar and just do what we just said and see how far you get. Like
it hurts about 2 minutes in.
So most people,
and then you got 8 left.
So most people cannot do. This is the thing about this is when I was like, oh no, never mind. Most people aren't going to finish this. Most people can't do 100 burpees in 10 minutes.
Be 10 per minute.
Yeah, just 10 per minute. You hear that? I've told the story before where David McCrary, when I first started CrossFit, I was like, dude, I finally got 110 minutes. And he was like, 100 what? I'm like, 100 burpees. This is like in 2014 or something. And he's like, what's a burpee? So I did a burpee. Go look up a burpee if you want to know what a burpee is. He's like, I was like, yeah, it's basically 10 burpees a minute. And he's like, I could do that. I'm
Prove
like,
it.
And so Wes Martin walks in the office and he usually has like $200 of cash. And he goes, he heard me, and Wes had done some CrossFit. So he's like, I said, Wes, he thinks he can do 100 burpees in 10 minutes and he doesn't work out. Or he may work out a little bit. At the time, he was not really working out. And I was like, okay, I'll give you, I had $50 and Wes was like, I'll give you $200 if you can do it. And he's like, oh my gosh. So he's like, I know I can do this. Like, I know that I can do this. This is so easy. I can do this. And he's like, it's like this, right? And he does 2 burpees. I'm like, yep, that's it. Just do that. Probably not even perfectly like technical burpees or whatever.
Right.
But like, I'm like, fine, you do that right there. You do that 100 times in 10 minutes. So he gets to 10 and he's like, oh my gosh, dude, he got to 19 and then he gave up. I was like, come on.
That's a long way from 100.
That's a long way. And he did like, he was pacing it. So he does 10 in the first 10 minutes or minute. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to go the second minute. And then he got into the second minute 9 and he's like, he didn't finish until like 2:15 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was like, I can't do it.
Well,
he just stopped.
You know, like we were talking about. So that workout, for example, is you do the first 20, 25, deadlifts and burpees and you're fresh and you feel good.
Yeah.
But then there's a moment when it hits you.
When did it hit you?
It hit me pretty early, about 3 minutes in, I would say. And so you're
like the round of 6,
7, 8 going up the ladder.
Oh. And you're just like, no way, I don't want to do 9 on the back end.
Yeah. And so you're 3 minutes into this 10-minute workout and your body's saying, nope, I want to be done.
So I would like, you're in better shape than me. You should try this workout scaled.
And see
if you could, because I
could finish.
I think you might be able to.
Maybe.
Because it's an interesting workout. Like, I never sped up. I just did the same pace the whole time. And, like kind of just didn't go fast enough.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't, at the end of it, I wasn't like, oh, I can't do anymore. I basically stayed the same pace. So if I tried
it's basically
again,
1 rep every 3 seconds for 200 reps would be 10 minutes.
Yes. And so, but I bet you could get close. But that's one of those workouts that I'm like, come on, everyone should scale this because, dude, some of the best guys in the world didn't finish.
Yeah.
It's such a test.
It is.
It is such a test. That's why I like it.
I do too. It's a mental test. It's
you're just like
you gotta push through that point of like, man, I would love to stop right now.
I know, man. Well, dude, I was gonna, we'll have to have you back sometime. I wanted to hear a little bit more about some of the people in your life, and so maybe sometime we'll have you back. But thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I think what you're doing with those kids and your focus, I mean, they're lucky to have you as a coach, someone that's like, more comprehensive, I would say is what I hear, that it's, I think the idea that a lot of people just think that it's just like, here's how you win. Yeah. Here's how you win the sport. And, like, that's one thing for sure I'm learning right now as a dad who has kids that play basketball, and just the realities. You take my son is tall for his age. I mean, he's doing really well. He's made the travel team. Yeah. He's doing really well. But you go to an AAU tournament in Cleveland with a bunch of inner city kids and, that are in the 5th grade. And you're like, okay, and you do know the statistic, like kids are not going to go play professional basketball. I mean, especially not my white kid. I mean, of course, I'm not going to say he never can. Right. But there's about a 99.999% chance that he's not. And there's a 100% chance that he's going to do other things in life, even if he does have a professional career. To really understand that sports is so much bigger, and it's about helping people become better people, helping people navigate the real things. I think that is like what it's all about, to gain perspective. Because even if, there's times where like I'm a coach and like my head coach, it's like my son won't start and I'm like, it's good for him to learn to not, start. It's good for him to get pulled out of a game. It's good for him to, really have that experience and I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to deal with that.
Yep.
Like, you have to figure out what it's like for you to not necessarily do your job and have it go wrong. And I'm not going to come and save the day for you. I want him, because I'm thinking now, instead of trying to gratify the moment of me wanting my kid to start a game, I'm thinking, how strong will he be if he can figure out how to navigate this disappointment in the future? Because that's how you grow. You know what I mean? So it's a weird thing to let your kid, go through some pain, even when you have your hand on the lever. Like, I could go to my coach and be like, I want him to start. He's starting, I'm a coach. But I don't, because I'm like, no, I want him to feel this and figure this out. And anyway, so
and come out better on the other side
for other stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't bail him out when he's, in college by himself. I can't bail him. So why would I do that now? I got to let him figure it out a little bit. So anyway, man, thanks a lot.
You got it, man. Appreciate you having me.
We'll do it again. So this is The Rest, and we'll talk to you guys later.